So my first language is Mandarin Chinese, and I speak that with my parents. And then I also learned how to speak Cantonese as well, and I spoke that with my grandma. Um, but then I learned English around like first grade. Whenever, like that's when my English started getting better. Was when I came to America. I was like 3 or 4, and started learning English then.
I'm originally from Venezuela, but I grew up in Ecuador, and there I was lucky enough to go to a private school, an American private school that was funded by the U.S. Embassy, and so I started there in like I think a kinder or something, and from the start everything was in English. You know, all the math, science, English, art, everything was in English, and so I learned from like pretty early on English, and that's why I don't have like any like heavy accents. Whereas too, if I would have gone to like a public school in Ecuador, I probably wouldn't have learned English.
Okay, well, I would say my primary language would be Spanish, just because I mean I did learn English growing up at the same time, but my household was mainly filled with people who only knew Spanish. So by the time I had to like really, I guess, accentuate my English, it would probably be whenever I went to like preschool. And that's when I learned, I guess it was a little bit of a culture shock just because like when I was home, I lived with, I don't know, 6 people who dominantly spoke Spanish, besides my dad and maybe my little brother who was learning at the same time. But once I went to preschool and just like primary school, that's when I learned like people really just only know how to speak English. It's later in life until I realized this because my parents didn't want to put me in like those dual like language classes and wanted me to focus more on English. And I think because of that, like I still know how to speak English, know how to read it and write it, but as my education kind of further down, that's when I realized that my Spanish wasn't diminishing, but it wasn't as perfect as I had it before learning the English language. It was a little difficult just because like you're not only are you like I'm not reading from like a book. I'm like just only saying like single worded like phrases. It would be like I would have to have actual full blown conversation with people in English. So at first I did kind of struggle, but I think once I was able like to get in the gist with it, I was able to kind of excel a little bit more. And I can't speak today. I wish my parents would have kept me in the dual language one because I feel like yes, I can speak it, yes, I can read it, and yes, I can write it. But I feel like that would have helped me more in it because there are certain like terms, there are certain like phrases that I don't know how to like write out, or like I sometimes can't do like correct grammatical for like Spanish for the Spanish language. So I wish they would have kept me in like the dual language. But I kind of understand now just because they wanted me to. I mean, you're growing up in an American city, you might as well be like really good at the language.
I was in with the rest of the kids and trying to catch up. Yeah, I can like even remember in like first grade and stuff like that when I was still trying to like learn, where I would like say things wrong and stuff in class, and my teachers and stuff would get upset because I didn't know how to say it. But so I was still like learning. I didn't have like a separate like class or anything. Yeah, I think especially like in the South and stuff. I think um, we all expect everyone to know how to speak English nowadays, but like we forget that there's so many people out there who like have different languages in their background and stuff, and that English is like the most spoken language, um, but like not everyone knows it. But I think everyone here expects everyone to know English, but it's so hard to learn it as well. So.
Their attitude needs to like get better because there's a lot of like hardworking people here trying to make a difference that don't even speak that much English, but at least they're like working and trying to do better for their own family. And I think that like the people who don't you know, the people who judge the other people by like being like, oh, that's a heavy accent, or he barely knows English, like why is he here? Like, that's really messed up. And you know, if you like, I think they should like put themselves in that situation where like they have to go to another country and learn another language and start for themselves and like gain some money for like their own family. Like they need to put themselves in that, you know, in that situation. So I think that a lot of people here in Texas are closed-minded and definitely need to just like think of the other side of things.
I don't know. At this point right now, America's not the best in foreign language, and it's not just like Spanish people. Just because like that's, I think in the media like that's such a big focus right now. It's Spanish, but I don't know. Like we come from Houston. Like it's a very diverse city, and I feel like it's not only like I guess the ignorance on like Spanish people. It's also towards like the Asian people, the Indian people, and I feel like America talks about being like this like diversified country, and it is a diversified country. I think it's just the people who are in this country can't accept it, that this is supposed to be a very diversified like country. People coming from a completely different country and have to learn a completely different language, it's always going to be something really hard. And it's not just for the people inviting these people to stay in. I think it's just for the people coming in as well towards. So everyone, each to their own, has a different way to, I guess, deal with that kind of sort of like circumstance. I think it's just a very like work in progress, because you never know how to react to people.